Great. Well, thanks everyone for coming. As part of our 125th anniversary celebration, it's great to welcome everyone to the 2018 award and portrait presentation. This is really one of those wonderful warm events that we have where we recognize those members of Johns Hopkins Medicine who symbolize the rich tradition we have and heritage of this institution. This afternoon, we'll honor 19 medical leaders who've influenced medicine and science. I want to give a special welcome to today's awardees and honorees, many of whom have traveled a great distance today. And I'm delighted to have Dr. John Thompson, who's the president of the Johns Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association and a 1977 Krieger graduate and a 1980 School of Medicine graduate, who's going to help with the Distinguished Medical Alumni Awards. And I'm delighted to have David Yaffe here from the Hopkins Alumni Association, who's going to be presenting the Johns Hopkins University Alumni Association Distinguished Alumni Awards. John, could you come up and join me on stage? And why don't we begin?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present these. I'm honored to have been asked to participate in today's ceremony and would like to welcome all of you on behalf of the Johns Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association. We would be here all evening if we shared all the details about each recipient and the honoree's accomplishments, so I won't do that. But please find more information in your programs today about today's awardees. The first award are for our Distinguished Medical Alumnus Award that honors those alumni degree recipients, so they could be house staff, faculty, former fellows of the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine and Johns Hopkins Hospital who have demonstrated excellence through their personal and professional accomplishments. Our first recipient is Dr. Lawrence Pacula, normally we call him Larry Pacula, who received his medical degree at Washington University of St. Louis, arrived at Johns Hopkins for residency training in pediatrics. He then became chief of pediatrics at Clark Air Force Base Hospital and in the Philippines, then returned to Baltimore for a fellowship at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. Throughout his career, he's been active at Johns Hopkins, serving counselor and vice president of the Johns Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association, as well as numerous boards in the Baltimore area. Dr. Pacula and his recently deceased wife, Sheila, have been champions of the neonatology unit at Johns Hopkins and support medical school students through scholarships. Larry, please come up to receive your award from Dean Rothman. Thank you. Larry is actually the first private practitioner I ever spent time with at Hopkins in his pediatric office, and I remember my first experience was when one of his nurses was about to give a shot to a patient, and the child went bolting down the hallway, and the nurse had to run after him. And I remember that about 38 years later after this incident. Our next distinguished alumni is Dr. Valerie Ratz. Dr. Ratz is a graduate of the School of Medicine class of 1987. She completed her residency at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in gynecology and obstetrics and joined the faculty briefly before moving to Washington University, where she distinguished herself. She's served on the faculty since 1994. She is professor of gynecology and obstetrics and chair of the committee on admissions to the School of Medicine there. Ties to Johns Hopkins run deep in Dr. Ratz's family. She married her classmate, Matthew Gornett, who is also Johns Hopkins resident in orthopedic surgery, and together they hooded their daughter, Megan, who we just heard speak at the earlier symposium, at her Johns Hopkins Medical School graduation last spring. Megan is a first-year resident at Johns Hopkins in gynecology and obstetrics, following in her mother's footsteps. Valerie, please join us to receive your award. Now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Yaffe. David Yaffe is the president of the Johns Hopkins Alumni Association, and he will present the Alumni Association Distinguished Awards.
Thank you, John. I'm very honored to participate in today's ceremony as we recognize a remarkable group of people. I would also like to add a welcome to all of today's guests on behalf of the Johns Hopkins University Alumni Association. It is really an honor to be part of today's program. The Johns Hopkins University Alumni Association represents all 9 academic divisions of Johns Hopkins. It truly says something about the accomplishments of those associated with Johns Hopkins Medicine to have such a distinguished gathering of recipients in our presence today. We will now present awards to those individuals who have been named by the Alumni Association as Distinguished Alumni for 2018. This award was established in 1978 to honor those who have typified the Johns Hopkins tradition of excellence and who have brought credit to the university through their personal accomplishment, professional achievement, or humanitarian service. Today we celebrate 5 distinguished alumni awards. Dean Rothman will congratulate the awardees. The first recipient of our 2018 Distinguished Alumni Award is Dr. Joanne Jordan. Dr. Jordan's primary areas of research interest include the epidemiology and genetics of osteoarthritis. Since 1990, Dr. Jordan served as the principal investigator of a large community-based prospective cohort of individuals with osteoarthritis of the knee and hip in Johnston County, a rural North Carolina county. She's the Joseph P. Archie Jr. Eminent Professor of Medicine at UNC's School of Medicine, and its Vice Dean for Faculty Affairs and Leadership Development. Mentoring students and faculty, particularly women, brings her great professional satisfaction and joy. She and her husband, Robert Harrell, also an alumnus of the School of Medicine, are proud of their 3 adult children. Please join me in a round of applause for Dr. Joanne Jordan. Congratulations. The second recipient of the 2018 Distinguished Alumnus Award is Dr. David Zamierowski. After receiving his medical degree from Hopkins in 1968, completing a surgery internship at the University of Pittsburgh, serving in Vietnam where he received 2 Bronze Stars, finishing 2 residencies, founding the wound care centers of Kansas City, and finally retiring, David Zamierowski insists he is just getting started. During his impressive career, Dr. Zamierowski, who completed his plastic surgery residency at the University of Kansas Medical Center, has invented surface dressings and surgical wound devices for which he now holds more than 50 patents. With the introduction of the VAC external wound dressing in 1995, and then the launch of the Prevena surgical incision dressing in 2009, Dr. Zamierowski joined the ranks of an elite group of physician inventors who have had more than 1 commercially successful product. The VAC has now been used to treat more than 6 million wounds. Dr. Zamierowski met his wife, Marilyn M. Zamierowski, PhD, when they were students at the Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Together, they established the Doctors David S. and Marilyn M. Zamierowski Directorship, held by the director of Johns Hopkins Medicine Simulation Center, Dr. Elizabeth Ann Hunt. Dr. Zamierowski, please come forward to accept your award. We would like to take this time to recognize 2 distinguished alumni honorees who are not able to be with us this afternoon. Dr. Christopher Beard received a Doctor of Philosophy in Cell Biology and Anatomy at Johns Hopkins in 1990. His work as a vertebrate paleontologist is world-renowned, and he has received numerous honors, including the MacArthur Fellow Genius Award in 2000. Dr. Charles Homsey received degrees at the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences in 1970 and the School of Medicine in 1973. He is a member of the Johns Hopkins University Board of Trustees. His research at Massachusetts General Hospital led to a career in the pharmaceutical industry. He has co-founded several private and publicly traded pharmaceutical-focused companies. We will now present the Global Achievement Award that honors alumni who exemplify the Johns Hopkins tradition of excellence and have brought credit to the university and their profession in the international arena through their professional achievements or humanitarian service. Dr. Hines? Yes, sir. Okay. Dr. Emily J. Cavello-Hines is the 2018 Global Achievement honoree. Dr. Hines' professional interest is in developing emergency care capacity in post-disaster countries via innovative approaches to health systems strengthening and education of healthcare personnel to provide best practice service delivery. Among her recent field experience, she served as Director of Emergency Services for International Medical Corps immediately after the 2010 Haiti earthquake, Senior Technical Advisor to Catholic Relief Services during the Haiti cholera epidemic, Senior Faculty at JFK Medical Center in Monrovia, Liberia from 2009 to 2013. She currently leads the Global Emergency Care Initiative at the University of Colorado. Her education at Johns Hopkins includes degrees in medicine and public health. Dr. Hines, please accept your award. The Alumni Association recently created the Community Hero Award to recognize outstanding contributions that address critical social, economic, and environmental needs throughout our society and communities, including our local community. This year's recipient of the Community Hero Award is Patricia M.C. Brown. Patty is the Senior Vice President of Managed Care and Population Health for Johns Hopkins Medicine, the President of Johns Hopkins Healthcare LLC, and Senior Counsel for the Johns Hopkins Leadership System. Her leadership goals include ensuring that Johns Hopkins continues to offer top-quality health care while improving the health of its patients and the communities around it. Patty has served on numerous nonprofit boards, including the United Way of Central Maryland as its board chair from 2013 to 2015. Her work in the Baltimore community makes her a deserving recipient of the Community Hero Award. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Brown. Congratulations. So the Alumni Association has found various ways to honor its alumni because they bring credit to the university in a number of ways. We will now present the Woodrow Wilson Award for Distinguished Government Service. This award honors alumni who have brought credit to the university by their current or recently concluded distinguished public service as elected or appointed officials. The Woodrow Wilson Award for Distinguished Government Service is Dr. Elizabeth Cuervo Tilson. Dr. Cuervo Tilson's work as health director for the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services has had significant impact on the lives of the state's residents. She has been at the forefront of the North Carolina Medicaid's move toward high-quality, patient-centered care and practice improvement. She works to support local systems of care and promote innovative strategies to improve the coordination of care for high-risk patients with chronic illness. Like many of our honorees this afternoon, Dr. Cuervo Tilson received her medical degree at Johns Hopkins and completed her residency in pediatrics at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Cuervo Tilson. Congratulations. The Heritage Award honors alumni and friends of Johns Hopkins who have contributed outstanding service over an extended period to the progress of the university or the activities of the Alumni Association. This year, Claire and Alan Jensen will receive the Heritage Award from the Peabody Institute. Alan and Claire are true friends of Johns Hopkins. Alan graduated from the Krieger School of Arts and Sciences in 1965 and serves as the School of Medicine Class of 1968 representative, celebrating their 50th reunion this weekend. Together, Alan and Claire have created a scholarship for medical students, support for Peabody students, and have remained involved with the Sheridan Libraries, the Wilmer Eye Institute, and the Johns Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association. Alan and Claire, please stand to be recognized. I would like to welcome back Dr. Thompson to present the remainder of the awards.
Well, thank you very much. Dr. Sam Asper, a 1940 graduate of the School of Medicine, served as the Dean of the American University of Beirut School of Medicine in the mid-1970s and established the Samuel P. Asper Award. This is an award for achievement in advancing international medical education in 1996. This award recognizes members of the Johns Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association for significant accomplishments in advancing international medical education. Past recipients have represented Panama, China, Mexico, Iran, Europe, as well as the United States. This year's recipient is Dr. C. Richard Conti. Dr. Conti is Professor Emeritus of Medicine at the University of Florida Health. He received his medical degree in 1960 from Johns Hopkins and continued training at the Osler Medical Service and in cardiology at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. He worked with Dr. Richard Ross as a fellow and young faculty member, our former dean, from 1965 to 1974. He remarked that Dr. Ross was able to identify the crucial aspects of research and simplify the presentation of data so that everyone interested in the subject could fully understand it. Honoring the foundation that Johns Hopkins education provided, Dr. Conti recently updated the Netter collection of medical illustrations cardiovascular system. His achievements in cardiology have been recognized around the world, and it is fitting that he received the Asper Award. I would like to welcome Dr. Conti to accept this award. It is now my pleasure to allow Dean Rothman to sit down and to invite Patty Vining, former president of the Hopkins Medical and Surgical Association, professor of neurology and pediatric neurology, and Carol Zeminski, associate professor of rheumatology, to the podium present our final award, the Johns Hopkins Women Medical Alumni Association Hall of Fame inductees. Patty and Carol.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. We're truly delighted to be here. Just a little bit of background. The Johns Hopkins Women's Medical Alumni Association Hall of Fame was established in 1993 to honor women who have made significant contributions to our community here at Johns Hopkins and to the larger world of medicine. The Hall of Fame recognizes women who have preceded us and women who have worked with us. It endeavors to bring to life the energy, enthusiasm, and passion of these individuals so that generations to come will have insight into the wide variety of accomplishments achieved by women in medicine at Johns Hopkins. I'm truly honored today to present to you for induction this year Dr. Ann Bishop McCusick. She would, oh, nice. Anne was the daughter of a physicist who directed research and development for the Eastman Kodak Company. This clearly shaped her choice of disciplines. She graduated with a degree in physics from Cornell in 1944, a rare woman in the field at that time. She was recruited to join what she realized was a very important part of the war effort, the Manhattan Project at Oak Ridge, where she worked as the only women junior physicist. It was an environment of great secrecy, and she later reported being horrified when the bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. Her decision to leave physics was shaped by a desire to make a, quote, greater contribution, unquote, and to help more people, although she was aware of the unique role she played as one of the few women in the field of physics. She appears to have been destined to come to Hopkins, the only medical school to accept her when Cornell declined. At Johns Hopkins, she met and in her fourth year married Victor A. McCusick, graduating in 1950. Although she was involved in research early, this clearly was not the focus of her career. She was dedicated to patient care, to teaching, and to becoming the, quote, partner sublime, unquote. What a wonderful phrase. It is unlikely that Victor McCusick, the father of medical genetics, would have succeeded in such a profound way without her collaboration and support. This certainly included maintaining a remarkable home in which they entertained often and raised 3 children, 2 of whom we are happy to have with us this afternoon. Anne could relate to the science at its deepest level, and she could relate to people in the warmest and most insightful ways. She was continually curious. Generations of Hopkins medical students and house staff, particularly women, were deeply influenced by the way in which she uniquely acknowledged you, wrapped you in her warmth and elegance, and welcomed you into her world. We honor Dr. Anne McCusick today for fame of a different nature, not the number of papers or books or awards, but in recognition of her unique contribution to the well-being of so many programs, patients, graduates, and trainees of Johns Hopkins for more than 70 years. Now, our award is a little bit different in that this citation will hang in the Mary Elizabeth Garrett Room, Halsted 106, along with all of the other former Hall of Fame inductees. But we do have for the family a smaller copy of the citation, so they will have this as well. Thank you, and join me in congratulating the family and Dr. McCusick.
So congratulations to all those honorees. Let's give them all another hand. So I know one's gonna, so you can watch that and listen to me at the same time. So the portrait collection at the Johns Hopkins Hospital and the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine expands each year with distinguished faculty, trustees, directors, nurses, and others who've played a significant role at Johns Hopkins, and we honor them with these portraits. We now have over 300 portraits honoring these great educators and investigators and leaders in the institution who've contributed to Hopkins through their time, talent, and energy. I'd like to take just 1 minute to recognize one of the artists who's here today behind some of these portraits. They are really very skilled. Is Laura Era here? Laura? Okay, could you stand up so we can applaud you? Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to present the first presenter today. Would Dr. Robert Higgins please come?
Thank you, Dr. Rothman. It's a true honor to recognize, I think, a very deserving first recipient, a star in a constellation of extraordinary heavenly bodies. Mentor, trusted confidant, surgeon extraordinaire, academic leader, surgeon scientist, friend, role model, and colleague. William A. Baumgartner joined the Johns Hopkins Cardiac Surgery Division in 1982. The following year, he reinitiated the heart transplant program at the Johns Hopkins Hospital, creating a legacy of excellence in the surgical treatment of heart failure. For 17 years, he led the Division of Cardiac Surgery as Surgeon-in-Chief. Today, he serves on the cardiac surgery faculty as the Vincent Gott Professor and Associate Director of the Surgical Research Laboratory. Nationally and internationally acclaimed, he served as the past president of the Society of Thoracic Surgeons and the International Society of Heart and Lung Transplantation. In addition, Dr. Baumgartner has had top posts in several national and international professional organizations, serving all of the cardiac thoracic surgery discipline in his efforts, primarily, most recently, as the executive director of the American Board of Thoracic Surgery, among the most prestigious of these offers. His scientific work focused on organ preservation for transplantation and the determination of methods for non-invasive diagnosis of rejection. He has since been involved in the field of neurologic protection in cardiac surgery, for which he has had continuous NIH support for over 25 years. In 2003 and 2009, he received the Socrates Teaching Award for the thoracic surgical discipline and has continued to receive awards and acclaim throughout his career. As an academic leader, Dr. Baumgartner has been the Vice Dean of Clinical Affairs and President of the Clinical Practice Association of the Johns Hopkins University, which is a group practice of over 1,700 full-time faculty. In this role, he is responsible for planning, managing, coordinating the clinical and administrative activities of the association. A graduate of Xavier University and of the University of Kentucky Medical School, Dr. Baumgartner received his surgical training at Stanford University Medical Center. His biography includes over 400 journal articles, book chapters, and books. He's married to his best partner and friend, Betsy Baumgartner, and has 3 accomplished children, Bill, Amy, and Mark, and 7 wonderful grandchildren. Dr. Baumgartner, congratulations on your decades of leadership, scholarship, mentorship, and the highest level of professionalism. We can say without doubt, you are the nicest cardiac surgeon we know. You're so deserving of this great recognition and award, and please join us to show us the portrait.
That looks great. And I'd like to call Justin MacArthur to do the next portrait.
Thank you, Dean Rothman, and good evening. My presentation will be short, inversely proportional to the respect and admiration that I have for Dr. Gary Goldstein, and also correlated with a very few number of steps between this spot and his office. He actually has the shortest distance to travel here tonight. Dr. Goldstein is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Kennedy Krieger Institute. He's also a Professor of Neurology and Pediatrics in the School of Medicine here, and a Professor of Environmental Health Sciences at the Bloomberg School of Public Health. He received his medical degree from the University of Chicago and completed residencies in pediatrics in Minneapolis, neurology at Stanford, and child neurology here at Johns Hopkins. He was the director of the pediatric neurology program at the University of Michigan, in Ann Arbor. I was there this week, and he is still remembered extremely fondly there, which is, I think, an important part of his legacy. He was then recruited, as many of us were, by Guy McCahon, the founding director of the Department of Neurology, to return here to Baltimore to lead the Kennedy Krieger Institute in the footsteps of Dr. Hugo Moser. As you know, the Kennedy Krieger Institute works with children who have disorders and injuries of the brain, spinal cord, and musculoskeletal system, but also runs an exceptional school system for over 600 children with special needs. Under Gary's leadership, Kennedy Krieger has expanded the number of patients it sees from just under 3,000 in 1987 to almost 25,000 last year. And under his guidance and leadership, research funding has ballooned from 700,000 to almost 30 million. Other accomplishments under Gary's watch include the founding of the F.M. Kirby Center for Advanced MRI Imaging, a wonderful facility that is used by investigators both in Kennedy Krieger and in the School of Medicine, a comprehensive autism center with a large early intervention program, as mentioned, a special education school, inpatient and outpatient subspecialty clinics, and active community programs that really provide care across the state and across our community. His research efforts in Kennedy Krieger include preclinical neuroscience laboratories, studies of acquired and genetic neurological childhood diseases, and a new clinical trials center. I'm proud to call Gary a friend, a mentor, and a colleague, and I also enthusiastically support the choice of Dr. Brad Schlager to replace, if that's possible, Gary as the incoming president and CEO this summer. Gary, would you like to join me at the portrait?
I'd now like to ask Dr. Deborah Baker to come up and do the next portrait.
Thank you. I've been ordered to be very succinct, something that Dr. Haller has been trying to teach me for years. But I'm honored to present the portrait of Dr. Karen Haller, Vice President of Nursing and Patient Care Services at the Johns Hopkins Hospital from 1998 to 2015. Prior to this appointment, Karen served as the Director of Nursing in the Department of Medicine at Johns Hopkins from 1993 to 2007. She joined Hopkins in 1988 as a Director of Nursing for Research and Education, and had really built the foundation for the research that happens today. Karen is an authentic servant leader who has spent her career mentoring nursing professionals and elevating the nursing profession with a focus on evidence-based practice. She provided the vision for the current Chief Nursing Executive role for Johns Hopkins Health System, a role in which I currently am honored to serve. Under her leadership, the Johns Hopkins Hospital earned Magnet designation in 2003, the first in Maryland to do so. She went on to oversee 2 subsequent Magnet designations. In addition to these accomplishments, Dr. Haller supported the publication of the Johns Hopkins Evidence-Based Practice Model, which is used nationally and internationally. With her continued support, the Johns Hopkins Hospital Department of Nursing recently published the Manual for Designing and Implementing a Nursing Professional Practice Model. While Karen supported the professional practice of nursing, she always emphasized the value of the interdisciplinary team, which continues to be a large part of our Johns Hopkins Hospital culture. In the words of one of her more successful nursing leader mentees, I quote, "Dr. Haller is brilliant, generous, and unassuming. She's incredibly humble and a true professional. She's the triple threat in nursing. I always refer to her as the quiet giant. It has been an honor to learn from such an amazing leader." Karen.
Can I ask Dr. Paul Welton, please come up and do the next portrait?
Thank you. It's a particular pleasure and privilege to be here today to say some words about my very good friend and colleague, Mike Clegg. I first met Mike in the mid-1980s when he came to Hopkins as a fellow in the Division of General Internal Medicine. And by that stage, he was a really gifted clinician. He was an outstanding clinician, and he very rapidly became an outstanding investigator. And he's made seminal contributions in a number of areas. I think most people who know Mike will think of him best for his New England Journal and JAMA contributions around the relationship of blood pressure to end-stage renal disease. But he is also one of the first people to describe the relationship between alcohol and cardiovascular disease. He has written a lot on ethnicity and its relationship to disease. Of course, has written a great deal about precursors of disease later in life. Mike, in addition to being a great clinician and a wonderful investigator, is a fabulous colleague. You couldn't hope for a better one. Mike and Linda Freed were, with me, the first faculty members in the Welch Center, and Mike was intimately involved in the recruitment and the mentoring of an enormous number of people who went on to be successful here at Hopkins through the Welch Center and all over the world, and certainly within the U.S. Mike turned out to be a gifted administrator as well. Started as division director in general internal medicine. He was the vice dean for clinical investigation for a period of time. He was the physician-in-chief for medicine. And all of that was training to become the dean of the Blumberg School of Public Health. And at a time when many schools of public health were facing some challenges, economic particularly, where the educational programs were facing a lot of competition, Mike did an outstanding job here at Hopkins. He grew the program. The faculty, the number of full-time faculty almost doubled during his 12 years. And he had remarkable contributions all over the world, certainly here in Baltimore, but all over the world he's had amazing contributions. And I think the mark of Mike, to me, as a great person, is that combination of professional accomplishments, which I've mentioned, but also the personal characteristics. One of the things that was striking to me as I looked on the web and looked at comments people have made about Mike and his role as dean, from his colleagues, from the staff, from the students, the thing that really came across is his personal characteristics, his warmth, his ability to outreach, to support, and that's been my experience and the experience of others as well. Mike has been a wonderful father to his children, Julia, Sarah, and Steve. He has been a loving husband to Wendy, who many of us remember and unfortunately died far too young, and more recently to Lucy, who glad is here today. But he's been an incredible friend to me and to many, many others over time. So, Mike, I want to congratulate you on your many accomplishments in life. I want to wish you continued professional success. I want to wish you and Lucy continued personal happiness, good health, and great luck in your next phase of life. And I hope that your portrait does you justice.
So I get to do the next one. So it is my great personal pleasure to present the portrait for Mr. Ron Peterson. It's hard to think of another individual who has had such a major hand in molding Johns Hopkins medicine into what it is today. Known as a fiscal surgeon for his ability to manage financial needs of our entities, he's given over 45 years of unparalleled service to this organization, including over 2 decades as president of the Johns Hopkins Hospital and Health System. Under his leadership as president of Johns Hopkins Hospital, he oversaw the opening of the new Comprehensive Cancer Center and undertook one of the most expansive private building campaigns in Maryland history, culminating in 2 new state-of-the-art hospital towers for adult and pediatric patients. Through the formation of Johns Hopkins Medicine, he helped to build a truly integrated academic health system with joint decision-making and shared vision, which has given us a strategic advantage in this time of change in healthcare. And his service has extended beyond the walls of our institution through his deep commitment to community service. He's been an extraordinary steward of our tradition of excellence, our collegial community, and of course our mission to improve the lives of our neighbors and our patients, and we are deeply grateful for his contributions. Mr. Ron Peterson. I'd like to ask Dr. Roy Ziegelstein to come up and do the final portrait.
Thank you very much. I think that it's maybe a worthwhile thing as we near the end to just pause for a second and think about what a great honor it is to receive a portrait. And I feel especially privileged and honored to present this last portrait of Dr. James L. Weiss. Dr. Weiss is really a Renaissance man, starting with a career in music that eventually evolved to a career in medicine. I also want you to remember that because it's that background and his background as a Renaissance man that I believe influenced this School of Medicine in a very palpable way, given his role as the Associate Dean for Admissions for 18 years. Dr. Weiss is a cardiologist, very active, I might add, as a cardiologist here at Johns Hopkins, and he's been my teacher and role model from the time that I was a cardiology fellow. It's an honor for me to present the portrait and, again, honor and highlight his contributions as Associate Dean. The students that we admit as medical students here arguably shaped the course of our school and potentially even our nation in medicine and health for many, many, many generations to come. About a third of our students remain here for residency and fellowship training, and many of those then remain on our faculty. It's important to note that given the number of students who provide health care to literally millions of patients in their lifetime, and given how many become leaders in medicine outside of Hopkins, the Associate Dean for Admissions at Johns Hopkins arguably shapes medicine in this country. Dr. Weiss played a major role in the recruitment of over 2,000 medical students, some of whom are in the room, over an 18-year period as Associate Dean. Through his efforts, the School of Medicine attracted the best and brightest medical students in the world. Dr. Weiss has spent more than 40 years at Johns Hopkins, arriving here as a medical resident in 1972, having trained initially at some school to our north. In 1999, he took on his roles in the Office of Admissions, and while always with good humor, he approached his job as Associate Dean with the seriousness that it was due, ensuring that Johns Hopkins always had the highest standards in the admissions process. Importantly, and I do want to emphasize this, there really has been no greater champion of diversity and inclusion at our school. He always emphasized the importance of careful consideration of each applicant going beyond what I would call the tail of the tape and considering applicants' community service, leadership, other experiences, and life circumstances, in addition to just their MCAT and GPA. I think that that actually does reflect his background in the arts, as I mentioned a minute ago, and his what I would call being a Renaissance man. As I mentioned, Dr. Weiss continues to be one of our more active cardiologists. It's a pleasure and honor to present this portrait tonight to honor his contributions as Associate Dean. He's joined here tonight by Dr. Susan Weiss, his wife, who's a professor of musicology in the Peabody, and by Ethan and Lisa, two of his children, his two children.
So on behalf of Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Medicine, I'd like to accept these 6 portraits. These 6 individuals have had an enormous influence on our institution. They're the people who've made us great. So I'd like to, again, could we give them all one great round of applause? I'd like to thank all the families and friends who've joined us today, and I'd like you all to join us for a reception outside in the lobby. So thanks, everyone, for coming.